Streaming live.
I knew exactly what I was looking at, so as soon as you pulled it up, I'm like, that's it, that's gotta go.
All right, well, necessary
He was really nice.
side discussion. Entertain a motion to come out of closed session. Back into open session.
So moved.
Discussion. All those in favor of coming out of closed session, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in open session now. I will entertain a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreements.
So I'll make that motion.
Archie, gotcha.
I'll support it. Well, I'll support it.
Okay, Archie said Dave supported it.
I'll third it.
Any other discussion?
Thanks for the work that goes into this a lot, so appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. All those in favor of approving it, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contracts have been approved. We're now moving on to discussion items unless someone wants to add another table item. No, okay. Discussion items, 4 goals.
So you have a copy of your 4 goals from last year. It's leave it to the board to determine what changes you might like to make for this year.
Kind of torn because I really want to get this done, but at the same time, I think the best business is town meeting because it's a little more informal. I think that the board meeting should move pretty fluidly and less chit chat, but I think we can discuss these at deeper level than I think is appropriate tonight.
Yeah, I agree, because I think we've not even like workshop setting.
I know that we've got some feedback that some of these goals are not measurable and they don't feel like we can actually measure. I hate to use the A word, academics in school, but definitely haven't thought about that for a while, so I think that needs to be discussed as part of the goals. We just have to figure out how to do that. Is there a way to get, and I'd like to have more than just us decide, because we make a goal, but I don't understand the system, and the goal is possible to meet or possible to measure. What's the best way to get feedback from principals and games and everyone else about goals that we have or ways we can measure them?
We could meet between now and, let's see, our county is next Monday. If we have it.
When?
It's next Monday on the schedule right now. This would be the only thing that I would actually have for that meeting at this point. But I could also bring back my individual goals. I could probably try to get something done for that. By then, if you wanted to do both of those, that would have 2 things we could deal with, but or at least discuss. But I could try to, if you have any brief direction, I could try to put some things together along the lines of academic. You're talking about adjusting these academic goals.
Yeah, was it 2C? Was that the one that seemed to be very difficult to measure as far as gathering actual data?
NWA.
Yeah. Is that the one that was like showing growth and everything and had to compare a lot of numbers? I'm trying to remember which one was the one that was.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think that was the big one too that was kind of a question.
Well, I will point out that one of the new requirements the legislature passed this year was that we had to create goals for each of our buildings that we have to report to the board on mid-year, which would be after we do the NWEA tests. So it would be February and then again at the end of the year. And so each of the principals already has put together goals related to our NWEA scores and achievement and having a percentage of students reach their projected growth in those. And they're preparing a copy of that for me to give to you in terms of what they've chosen, and then there'll be a presentation as part of that in February and at the end of the year. So that is something that we're already focused on in compliance with that law.
I see no reason to make extra goals. If the goals that we've set for ourselves are realistic and measurable goals, and that's what they're gonna be doing anyway, and that's the reason not to incorporate those board goals at least in some way.
So I can bring those with me to the meeting on Monday, and you can see what those are.
A, and B, I don't think, I would like some feedback from those who are in the trenches, who understand what the metrics are, understand how we need to change, like that feedback is brought up to us, because I don't go to the schools every day, I don't see what's going on, I don't see what needs to be changed. If we can make an arbitrary goal, seems very helpful. So I want, the board has to decide ultimately what the goals are, but I would like some feedback from others on what those goals should be in some cases.
I can get that for you.
So, as long as we, I would like that meetings to have meetings, but I would like a meeting where they can speak freely and we can discuss things.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we need to discuss this any further tonight, because we're not going to decide the 4 goals or 3 goals here. But discuss that later.
Is there an area that's not in here that you would like information on, or to be prepared to discuss on Monday? An area of goals.
It's just a consideration. I always have a problem with the word all. Like when you say, down in the future, all staff will love their job, all students will come to school, excited to be here. Even if it's future, that's a nice goal, but it's not achievable. And then the one on 4, where you say, improve the, I don't know, that was a different one. All students K-8 will show growth in math. That's almost an impossible goal to have, all students. So at least a consideration to think about when we come back is to put at least some realistic goals instead of the word all, because you'll never reach all. And it makes like a paper that doesn't look achievable to people who are trying to read it.
When that was created, Dave, that was, the intent was all students will show some growth, not that all students will exceed expectations, but they'll show some measurable growth if they spend a full year in the building and prove some. So that was how that was generated, whether or not you agree with all or not, that was not meant to meet all students' standards. I do think that we talked a little bit about that, I know, Amber has too, special education, I don't know how or what kind of goal you have there, but I want to make sure we still focus on that in some way, shape, or form. That'll be the only note I had to do. You gotta have a financial goal, you have to have academic goals. We want all people to love their job, but
Yeah, and all students to come to school excited and ready to learn. That'd be really good.
But I do think we need to add special education. Because it has been part of our history. It is, yes. Anything else on that discussion topic? So moving on to the board training on superintendent evaluation tool. Want to talk about that?
You can.
I do. So we are required, if we're going to use an evaluation tool, we train on the tool. Some of us have been, some of us have not been. We have an opportunity to do virtual training for those that have not been trained. To do that training, we also have the opportunity to pay for and bring in an expert to teach us all again how to use the tool. So if we choose to bring a person, there's virtual, this is a certain date they have to do the virtual training, or is it?
Yes, it's October 5th, right, Kelly?
So that'll be, Dave hasn't taken it. I don't know if Paul has taken it. You took it before. Honesty is the best policy, Kyle.
October 5th.
Kyle's not taking it either.
So if
I don't-
we've already been
I don't
trained,
recall.
Is it the MASB
We went to a place in Coldwater.
tool?
We did training in Coldwater. Where they did it.
Archie and I started at the same time.
Okay.
So, do you know how recent the training is to be? Amber's had it before.
just because I have a conflict that day, but I don't want to be the one that keeps everybody else from going or something.
No, that'd be the virtual one, because if your training is still,
No, I don't, I
She-
think they've been trained.
Yeah. so it would be irrelevant if we do the virtual. That isn't the scheduled date for some community.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I was.
So,
Yeah, it was.
Is there an opportunity for like a self-paced training?
I can find out. I
The
don't
reason I
think
ask,
so.
is
I don't think so, but I can find out.
I may not be back from Myrtle Beach, so.
What day are we talking about?
If you do the October 5th, only
It's Tuesday, October 5th.
only Dave would have to do it and Paul. Because the rest of you have all been trained. Oh, you didn't Kyle.
we're uncovering more things here.
Where we go for this?
They said they haven't been.
You did the evaluation last year. Oh, it's the same tool.
Where we go for this?
Well,
That would be virtual, just, you go to your
Home,
home.
you just watch it?
Well, good.
I don't know if that's, I don't know, like a daytime class, afternoon, evening.
I thought it was evening.
Yeah, the brochure.
Anyway, I hate, spoiler alert, it's pretty straightforward. You're not gonna be surprised by how to use the tool. The tool is written in a way that is logical.
Yes.
So I would prefer not having a board-wide training again, but if that's the only option we have, we'll do it.
Yeah, if you do the whole board, then they come here. I'm sure it would cost them more.
Okay, I'll just
So you just watch it at home and check a piece of paper. So, okay.
Might have you record it.
Okay, so, watch is coming back, we'll talk about substitute shortage.
Yeah, I just gave you a memo. I want you to be aware of some of the things that we're discussing in terms of how to address the shortage of substitutes. We keep hitting different buildings today with the high school. Amber, how many classes did you teach today?
Twice at one time.
You had 2 classes at once.
Hey, I volunteered, you told me I can't do it.
Yes, you cannot. Well, the lawyer says especially if it's state matters.
They have
But it's at each building. I think I had at least one day when each principal was like, "What, it's going to be bad today." But thankfully they've been on different days because today the elementary was pretty good, right? So she was pretty. It's a great day when they come in and all their absences are covered with subs. That constitutes a perfect day in each building. And
Has it happened this year?
no. And so what ends up happening is we end up with teachers filling in. Teachers don't want to fill in, except for the fact that they make $45 per class period. So it costs us in a 6-period day here at high school $270 to have teachers fill in every day. When just a sub is $142.16 or something like that we pay, and so. There are different options that I've been looking at and talking with principals about it. I've talked with a number of people about it, talked with other superintendents. Some districts I mentioned in the memo are offering like a loyalty program, kind of like when you go to PS Food if you keep going there, well, schools are saying if you sub here 20 times, we'll give you a $400 bonus. And so if you get a call from both places, you're going to keep going back to the same school, hopefully they get your bonus. But one I want to pursue is hiring, to look at hiring permanent subs, to have 3 people on staff that can do other duties, and while they're here, but then also have the ability to fill in as a substitute. These would be employees that don't have teaching certificates. They meet the minimum requirements to sub. We have several parapros right now that meet those requirements, and we have at times pulled the parapro and made them a sub, but then you don't have their services as a parapro. So what I'd like to do is just have people in those positions who are available, so when we have these times when things aren't filled, they can just step in the classroom. Saves us money for having teachers do it, keeps our teachers in their playing area. And so that's something I'm working on, and I'm looking at any number of ideas, but I wanted you to be aware of that. So when I bring it back with some specifics that we can act on, I don't want to wait too long on this. That's another reason I'm talking with the insurance about what insurance would be required to offer these people, because their hours would be long enough that they would have to have something offering. So that's what that memo was about, just to inform you on what we're trying to do there to address that. It's one of our biggest issues we're dealing with right now.
I think the loyalty idea, if it works, for pursuing immediately, that it's going to work. Maybe dual facet or something, with the opportunity of having full-time substitutes. Gotta have substitutes.
Yeah, we have to. I've also thought about going back to having someone to be able to make personal calls to, and, you know, under the systems that everyone uses these days, the person at home has to get up and go online to log in to accept a sub request. They might get a text or something saying someone needs a sub, but there's nobody basically emotionally blackmailing them over the phone. We really need you today, and that we used to have. And so we might look at having someone take on that role to try to plead to get people in here.
Well, I mean, if it's effective, maybe it's not. We shouldn't have to do that. You can pay them to do it or find out alternatives. So.
For the record, Dave, I also got shut down. So.
I'm on my way to Athens, yeah.
So Dave Matheson, Kyle Miller, now.
So, if you're from Athens, I'll be over there.
Yeah, you can sell that.
So in Athens and also, you can not just
Yeah,
go
there
over
are
to
organizations
the
up here.
How do I turn Dave's mic off in here? Moving on. Okay, thank you for that. Going back to the board training, you know, this evening.
It's from 6 to 8:30 on Tuesday afterwards.
So the question on the table is, can those who need to do the training do that, or do we need to do it as a group? That's the only training available.
That's the only one they have right now virtually, yes.
I love the home idea.
Like I said, it's not. I would rather not listen to it again personally. I'll be honest.
The home idea.
You only have to be trained once.
We could hire someone to come and only train the ones that need the training to. So you wouldn't have to put them together.
Also, then you had financial, you know, probably don't know.
I'm gonna guess it's about the same as $90 per person to do the virtual, and they probably charge $400, you know, do a training. I'm guessing. I don't know.
You're going to
It doesn't give you the group rate on there.
I'm not ready for any of that.
I mean, I can do either. I can do either next day myself, or just together yourself. I mean, it's really up to other people.
Do you guys prefer to do it in person versus virtual? Or you can ask questions.
And the trainings that I've seen done virtually, it's a total one.
Right.
So you can ask questions.
Just, you were on the same time as John, so you both have had training. Is that
I know I've done the training.
Okay, so I'm assuming that probably.
Yeah.
You'll send us the link.
Well,
Well,
they'll
we
probably,
decide.
I'll register you, they'll probably.
Send me the link.
So the reason I'm asking is because those of you who can do the virtual have to decide if you do the virtual or not. If you can do that. Good luck.
I can do virtual.
You want me to check on it for you, Archie, and see?
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
It would be a welcome home for you, I'm sure. Like, yeah.
So I'll register Paula or.
You would drive them on.
I guess the only caveat I would give is it's half the cost to bring someone here, and we'll just pick a name. I'm guessing it's time and money, everything's time and money, okay. So as of right now, we're gonna look at doing it virtually unless the cost is much cheaper to do it in person. Plus cameras, saw the videos, pretty crazy. Big Brother is everywhere now.
It is, and it's been helpful already, hasn't it?
And I learned something because in our meeting about this meeting, I said, we had cameras on buses when I was in school, and he said, no, those were fake cameras.
So they were.
Now they're real cameras. So,
They are real, and you can see everything.
The visibility on them watching them, you know, if you take an SD card and then put it in the computer, the visible that these cameras pick up is amazing. The system's new, you know, and the kids don't think they're real. So that's looking at and, you know, doing, but they'll get it, they'll figure it out.
my understanding is we're getting ways to wirelessly download that information.
Yes.
A lot, it's pretty cool.
We're, like a lot of places, we're waiting on delivery of the electronics because everything is on back order. But which leads into the next one, the installation and security stuff, the security cameras in the buildings and the door access is progressing nicely. And again, they are having some delays on some of the equipment, but we're still hopeful it will all be in and up and running by the end of October is what the timeline we're shooting at.
I see where it says that they've been used 3 times in the first week. You know, obviously kids talk as the findings from a video. Do you feel it's already starting to deter some behavior on buses, or do you think it's going to take a little bit longer for it to set in?
They don't think it's real. I mean, I'm driving, you know, a few days out of my week, and they keep asking, why do you have this here? This isn't real. I said, okay.
Are these audio too?
Yes. Yep. I mean, it's
Audio
amazing.
and video.
It's amazing, the language, and I'm more, the elementary kids are just as bad, if not worse, than the high school kids in the language. Yeah, it fixes it.
We did have one situation there was an accusation made that turned out to not have been a true accusation. Yeah. So in that case, it actually protected the student who had been accused of something. So.
And you also mentioned that we have cameras outside, so if something blows by the bus or breaks in that situation for our kids.
Yeah, forward looking, and then also with the stop arm.
I'll stop doing that now. I can't be that crazy guy anymore. All right, anything else on those? All right, job posting.
I just wanted to make you aware that that is the posting that's up. If you have questions about that, I can talk to you.
Is this a new position? I didn't know that we were.
That's replacing my old position.
Oh, I didn't realize it was, that your old job was curriculum instruction and assessment.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay.
I had a.
Can you explain that a little bit more then on
Yeah.
how it got changed?
Yeah. I had when we went through the process of trying to hire someone initially, to replace me, it was posted as working with software, handling state reporting, and those types of things. And we did interviews and didn't have someone that worked out of that group. And so I was trying to figure out exactly what we were going to do again, if we were going to just post that again, how we were going to manage that. And as I thought through it, I met with Jen, and she and I talked over the position. We talked about, I told her about an idea I'd had, which was to, in the past, the superintendent handled Pat and then Ronnie handled a lot of the data, setting up the data around testing, because we have had a curriculum person. So setting up the test windows and assigning students for testing, managing all the online testing from that standpoint. The position that we were hiring to replace me was heavily involved in running Schoology, which is our instructional learning system, and Power School as well. And so as I thought through it, it made sense to me with Grant growing and taking on more of the duties I had gradually. It made sense to me that an area we've been lacking is having someone in the area of instruction. And to take those aspects of what I was doing related to instruction, which is Power School, Schoology, those types of things, put it with the assessment tasks that Pat and Rhonda were managing, and then add the instruction component to that position. And then that would mean that I have to continue doing, instead of me taking over and managing the assessments and putting all of that together, I would continue to handle some aspects of of my old job that Grant's not ready to take on yet, until such time that he becomes ready to do those things. He's learning and gaining new skills and taking on new responsibilities all the time. And so at some point he'd be able to take those on. And so as Jen and I talked about it, she thought it was a really good idea. And we actually both had in mind a particular person who we thought would be good in that role. Not someone who works here, but so we both had the same idea along those lines. So that was the job description that I put together. And that's what you have. With the goal being that by having that person in place, they can begin to address some of the curriculum and instruction things we need while managing Schoology, Power School, and all the other online. Because so much of what we do instructional now, and with assessment especially, is done online. That person would be managing all of that aspect of the job. And then Grant would continue to gain the more skills in the area that related to the devices and keeping those functional, keeping the hardware specifically running. And then what I'm still handling is if we have a problem with the network backbone or something like that, I'm still dealing with that now. I'm still dealing with the state reporting and those types of things. And then obviously until we get someone hired in this role, I'm still dealing with all of those issues that come up with Schoology and if we had to have training with teachers in Schoology and those kind of things. So that's kind of how that came about. It was through my thoughts and then having a conversation with Jen.
Who would they supervise?
They would
supervise district staff.
They would be, that may not be the best phrasing for that. I shouldn't, in hindsight. They would not have direct supervisory authority over anyone. But they would be involved in helping our principals with evaluating instruction, those types of things. So, and again, a lot of that and a lot of what's in that, that's what we're seeking. A lot of what the person would end up actually doing will depend on who, applies for the job and what their skill set is. And so we would try to build a fit that would work between myself and them and the staff that we already have in Grant, someone to fit in there so things would adjust slightly depending on who the person was that we hired. One of my goals is to, we all know, as my daughter says, I'm old. I'm not going to be here for 10 years. And so one of the things I definitely want to do is have things in place so we have a good structure that we haven't maybe been able to maintain in the past. And I'm hoping that with some of the financial changes the state is making that we'll be able to set up a structure that we can continue with, so that the next superintendent, when they come in, has a full team in place to handle all those different areas. And they have the job of overseeing everything, which is really what the superintendent role should be, instead of having to get involved in a lot of the more detailed things. So I want us to be in a good position for what I do. If any of you want to talk about that anymore with me, anytime, just let me know and I'm happy to.
It's a little bit gray to me, and cost is concerning to me at some point. There's quite a bit of qualifications and experience in here that comes with the price tag, so I think we need a body to help with curriculum and instruction. Concept I agree with, I just want to make sure that we're getting what we pay for and getting the right tools we need. That's all. Anything else? All right. Public comment, round 2. Is there anyone who would like to give a public comment? It looks like Mr. Goodwin is walking up to the microphone over there.
No. Oh, yes, there is.
Can you hear me? Check, check. Okay. Take the one parent of 3. I have 2 concerns, along with several other parents that I've personally spoken to and conversed with in an online forum. So on Friday, September 23rd, 2021, Branch County Circuit Judge William O'Grady issued a restraining order against the health department allowing students with no symptoms of COVID to return to school and sports as of 4:45 on Friday. This was effective in order for 3 students who had been quarantined for the full length of time, which was either 10 or 14 days. I can't really state that, but they're allowed to go back to school and sports as of that order. The order is in effect until a hearing on October 1st. I don't know if they'll reach a resolution on the 1st, so it's possible the restraining order could be extended further. So he cited the fact that students were deprived of due process and a right to a free and equal education. So I'm asking if you would please, as a board, inform the parents of this district if you will honor this order and the precedent it sets in the event that their student is sent to quarantine here at Union City. Or will you require them to get a separate court order from the circuit court judge? There is a group in Michigan called Let Them Play Michigan. It's a nonprofit group, and they stand ready to file the suit in Branch County, and they have the funds on hand to cover the costs for any parents that can't afford it, and the funds have all been donated by concerned parents across the state. So that is who helped fund the current lawsuit in Branch County that was already heard. So if you could please make a public address to the parents, letting them know if that precedent will be honored or if you're expecting them to bring in a separate court order. So asking for clarification for everybody involved. The second issue, which was mine and several other parents, was that on October 19th, 2020, there was a board meeting held in the school gymnasium here. And the topic of a permanent mask policy was discussed with the board in an open forum. Board member Darren LeBar stated that since the county and state already had mandates in place, that there was no reason for Union City Schools to enact a permanent mask policy because we were always going to be following somebody else's policy anyway. I strongly agreed with his assessment, as did many other concerned parents. And it appears the board as a whole convalesced around the idea that we could drop it and leave it alone and not have a permanent mask policy. Right after that, at the same meeting, the superintendent at that time asked the board to approve Neola policies for the year. In that new policy that was adopted, there's an order called PO 8450.01, and it covers what looks like a permanent mask policy that we now have adopted at Union City as our permanent policy. So after reading it, I'm not an attorney, but the policy appears to give the superintendent authority to require masks at will or whenever they see fit without board approval. While I don't believe Mr. Katz would have used that power, it does leave the door open for future issues or future superintendents to do as they please without anyone's approval. I ask that you revisit this policy that you adopted, consider revising the wording of the order, or eliminate it altogether from our school policy. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to our children and to our community. Appreciate everything you do.
Anyone else? Microphone is still on. Whisper to yourself, please. All right. Let's get a public comment. Board roundtable. We have to discuss whether or not we're going to have a town meeting, and if so, when. As we discussed earlier, we need to figure out our board goals and tax goals. Get those approved. So whether we do that this town meeting or a different meeting or the next town meeting, discussion. I recognize that the town meeting would be very soon after this meeting.
My only question would be is whether you would be able to get together what you need to get together for your superintendent goal by next Monday.
It may take another iteration too. So if we get something going, we answer 90% of the questions, and that was 10% of the final one.
Correct.
So we have it for the October meeting.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
So I don't like having more meetings, that we gotta get our goals figured out for this year. That we've already started.
That would be more productive than it too, if that's the only thing we want.
I agree, I think we should.
Goal
That's me, yeah. That's me saying that, knowing the next night I have a virtual class.
Yes, I have it with you, then we can join each other.
I'm still fine with that, so, no, I think that's a good idea, because like you said, it's hard, folks, that I don't have my microphone. But it's nice if we can actually focus on that. Like, I think sometimes it can get kind of in the wash, and then, so, I think it's a great idea.
How do I say? Town meeting,
Changes to Tuesday.
football game.
Tuesday is the board training.
Yeah, that'd be the virtual
We
training.
do the virtual training.
I won't be here on that.
Yeah, I was gonna
Thank you, Archie. That's so.
Games and hats. I don't like changing meetings all the time. It is on the calendar, I'm gonna honor that, it's, set aside that time whether they use it or not. Schedules. Most logical to do it on Monday that we don't schedule. Unless I hear otherwise, I guess we'll have a calendar.
JV football games need to move back to Thursdays.
I wish they could. I agree 100%. So, maybe we can make a board policy change for that. Anything else for roundtable?
I just have a couple of real quick comments. One, Daryl, I think you do a great job of running the meeting. I want to tell you that. Daryl, I know Daryl, and now
There
Daryl.
was one name that I would rather not be called, and you chose that.
I'm sorry I paid the compliment. It's really a compliment, Darren. You did a real nice job tonight. I thought very nice. I never saw you on a meeting before, but you're very professional, very good. And the other thing is we had for 400 people at the Elvis concert. Besides Elvis, you came up a lot, Chris, and people approach me, and I just want to say I think that you're doing an excellent job as superintendent of our schools. You're very professional. One comment I got was that even if I disagree with him, he's very professional, handles things in a very good way. So I just want to congratulate you and tell you that I appreciate the way you're handling the office. That's it. That's it. Mr. LeVar,
Just saying, the name's right there.
I gotta find out why you don't like Daryl.
Daryl will be glad that you call me Daryl. I was brother Daryl.
So this is a random thought from the other day. I'm trying to get away from the Daryl Darren thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the new equipment at the elementary school, do we have an update on that at all? Wasn't there supposed? Didn't we approve the
Playground?
Yeah. I know, but I'm just saying, like, I wasn't sure, like, when that was all going on.
That's why we had to vote on it right away, so it would be in place before school started.
And I knew that it was delayed for that. I knew it wasn't coming by the time school was, gonna be started. Spencer let me know that. And I'm thinking back to the conversation with him, and I wanna say that we were thinking late September to October. But I haven't seen anything done for it. So
Yeah.
thank you, I need to probably.
No, that's and just like everything else, everything is delayed in this world right now, so everything is delayed. So I wasn't, to be completely honest, that when we went all down, I wasn't even very confident that it was gonna come right away anyway, so I just wanted to see if there was an update, but thank you, Chris, for looking into that.
These days, if you want something, you better play it that.
I was there and done. Thank you.
I mean, the kids are still just having a blast out
Yeah,
there.
but it's gonna be so nice.
Yeah, it'll be nice when they have it,
Oh
but
my
like,
gosh.
I mean, my daughter's a kindergartner, and she's not like she's coming home going, I wish there was one more piece of playground equipment. She doesn't care. So she's out there having a blast, so it doesn't matter. So it'll be nice when it comes in. Just curious. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle. Anything else? I will entertain happily a motion to adjourn next meeting.
So moved.
Amen. Oh, second.
Support. Discussion. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.